Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetzky, Andy Kamenetzky. Jerry West dies at 86. We look back at a Lakers legend next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday. No matter how or where you get your podcasts, this one's always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where over 24,000 subscribers are all collectively mourning the death of Jerry West. That news came on Wednesday morning. Jerry West dies at age 86. Obviously, not just a legend for the Lakers, Andy, but a legend around the league. We're going to be spending a lot of time on the show talking about West and his impact, not just on the Lakers, but on the NBA game. Do want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So, look, when a man is 86 years old, it is hard to say you're ever sort of shocked by the passing of someone, but Jerry West was sort of in that group of, for me at least, in that group of people around the league who are so central to the way you think about it and still relevant. We talk to him about, what is his influence on the Clippers? And before it was, what was his influence on the Warriors and the Grizzlies and the Lakers? That I didn't think of him necessarily as an 86-year-old man.
What's funny is when you and I were just texting back and forth about how we wanted to approach talking about Jerry West, like it dawned on me just the idea of how do you unpack a career and a life like his. It's truly one of those where do you start type questions, because there are so many different places. We could focus an entire 30 to 35 minutes on just one piece of his NBA career, whether you're talking about his time as a player with the Lakers, whether his time as an exec with the Lakers, whether you're talking about just time with the Grizzlies, time with the Warriors, like all these different elements of his career, all these different elements of his personality. And it sort of hit me that he was just this really fascinating person, Jerry West, like beyond the talent and beyond the basketball vision and the intellect and his achievements and his legacy. He was just this really compelling figure that you and I were fortunate to have spent a little bit of time around on a few occasions. And it dawned on me how fitting it was that the basketball player most, I think, commonly linked to Jerry West, and the one you always think about the most, was Kobe. Kobe was also this incredibly fascinating person that you and I got to know much, much better than West. But he's just a really, really interesting guy to look back on what was really a very remarkable, amazing, and often, frankly, very sad life.
Well, it's sad in the sense, and it's something we get into, but like sad in the sense, it always saddened me. Like when you look at around and like the tributes to Jerry West, as we saw with Bill Walton. I mean, different kinds of tributes, obviously with Jerry West and Bill Walton, but there's a through line of kindness and of support and of giving of yourself as a person. Our friend Ben Hochman, who is now with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, but was an NBA writer for a long time, specifically for the NBA, told a great story about how he was doing, writing something and needed to interview West, talked to him, set it up. This is when West was with the Warriors, went through the whole thing or whatever. And West stopped at the end to talk to him about, this was at the PR director with the Warriors knew that Ben was going through a difficult time, a loss in his family and all these things, and had mentioned it to West, probably just to be like, hey, so Ben tweeted about it today. Jerry West stopped to talk with him after this interview was over, 10, 15 minutes more, just about the nature of grieving and of loss and all of these things and providing support. This is not somebody that Ben knew like well. But like stories like that, you learn about the character of a person, like we learned about the character and the giving nature of Bill Walton. What I think was so fascinating about West, beyond his obvious competence, he was voted into the Hall of Fame 3 times in 3 different capacities. Like that's pretty good. It's that our respect for him and his willingness to sort of give for others and be there for others and be there for the game and all these other things didn't seem to translate quite as closely to personal satisfaction, personally being not in an ego-driven way, but just pleased with the quality of your accomplishments, the quality of your life in certain ways. Like he did look particularly at his playing career as a failure.
This is what I'm getting at. This is what I'm getting at when I mention how there are elements of Jerry West's life that are sad. I'm talking about, in a lot of ways, his inability to actually enjoy and be as proud of what he did as he should have been. Mm-hmm. Like Jerry West, there was a lot of dichotomy with Jerry West. He was very, very generous of praise towards others, but rarely, if ever, himself. Like he was a very talkative guy, but he was not bubbly. You know, he was known for being, we just gave an example, like very kind and generous towards others, but he did have a volcanic temper at times. Mm-hmm. Like pretty much everybody who covered Jerry West for a long time that I've heard them talk about today has a story of Jerry West unloading on him. And they always temper that by saying he was also terrific to me. Like he was a terrific person. He would be generous with his time and his thoughts. You know, he was somebody that I think really loved the amount of people that he got to know over his time in the NBA and like gathering up these friendships. But he was also somebody that held grudges for a very, very, very long time. And, you know, we'll get into this, I'm sure, at some point in the show with the Lakers, the falling out that they had in the early 2000s between, you know, Jerry West and the organization. It was never mended. And
no, not in any meaningful way. It doesn't seem like.
And it's, again, it's also part of that sadness. Like the idea that Jerry West, who is, I think in my mind and pretty much most people's minds, he, Kobe, or Magic, that's your list for greatest Laker of all time. I think you can make an argument for all 3. I'm not even looking to debate who you would choose. I just think that's the list.
Sure.
The idea that one member of that list would have an acrimonious relationship with the organization that he's most rightly associated with, and, you know, went to his deathbed with that relationship still being very raw and very bad. It's sad to see.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that hope and that sense that, particularly in sports, you know, where time tends to kind of heal these things. You know, I think part of it is he is still in the game. You know, had West been like genuinely retired, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, his work with the Clippers was the same as his work with the Lakers, but, you know, he was still involved with the game. And, you know, maybe had he really truly retired 15 years ago or something like that, it might have been different. But so often in sports, you have that thing where time kind of heals it. And, you know, you have that homecoming, ownerships have changed, people have changed, management's changed, all these other, so many people that were there when you had your conflict moment with a franchise, with a player, whatever it might be, they're just not there anymore, you know, or people just don't care. Or the organization realizes, you know, let's just put this aside and honor somebody. They never had that moment with the Lakers. And obviously his numbers retired and all these things, and there's a statue, and it's not that the Lakers haven't memorialized him as a Laker. I don't mean, you know, in his death, but you're right. The relationship just wasn't one that was ever brought back together. So we'll talk a little bit more about West, what his sort of the way he perceived himself, I think it's still relevant for a lot of how we look at players today, and a little bit of coaching news as well. So all that coming up next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. Years ago, some friends of mine and I, we went to go see LL Cool J in LA at the now defunct House of Blues. It's a last minute decision for a group of us. We had no idea how to get tickets. They were sold out. Went to a scalper. They were fake. We got rooked. It was just some random, unrepeatable luck that we managed to get into this show. But after that, I was like, carpe diem. I will never allow an experience that I want with a concert or any live event not to happen, and I don't want to even deal with that stress, and that's why I love Game Time. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy shows, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets, start getting hyped for the fun. They got flash deals, so you save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. That would really help me out a lot. This LL Cool J thing. And the Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time credits you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. So snag the tickets without the stress using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
It's funny, and I don't mean this in a funny haha kind of way, but like, we mentioned in the first segment, Jerry West looks back at his playing career, particularly as a failure in so many ways, because he only won the one title and lost to the Celtics, primarily the Celtics so many other times. It is crazy I think for most people to think of it that way, to look at the life and career of Jerry West, who is quite literally the logo, the emblem, the symbol of the NBA. Like when you think of everybody wears a picture of Jerry West on their uniform, to think of that guy as a failure. But it ties to me, his perception of his own playing career, I think, is ironically in so many ways has become kind of the dominant post-Jordan way of framing careers. How many titles did you win? How many did you lose? Are you Jason Tatum is going through this now. Like he's a 3 straight first team all NBA teams, and the discourse coming out of the finals and the playoffs really so far has been, Tatum's not that good. Jaylen Brown's better. Tatum's not that good. He's a star that leaves so much. You need so much around Tatum for him to win. Like, you'd think he was averaging 7 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists a game. And you look at his numbers but like that framing has become so common in how we look at players. It's certainly not how West viewed the players of today, but it's kind of how we look at players today.
I tweeted out today at Cam Brothers, Jerry West was an undeniable all-time great player who nonetheless suffered several finals losses before finally breaking through. In our modern sports discourse, he would have never become known as Mr. Clutch, much less the logo. Our modern sports discourse sucks. And look, per StatsMuse, West, in the course of his 9 finals appearances, averaged 30.5 points a game, 5.6 rebounds, 5.5 assists in a little over 43 minutes per game. In 1969, the year that he won finals MVP, despite it being in a loss, he averaged basically 38, 5, and 7, 49% from the field, over 12 free throws a game. And like, if this happened now, because clearly that is excellence, that is, you are doing your part and then some. In this day and age, he would be getting
winning
crushed.
Basketball, Andy. Yeah,
he would be getting crushed as the guy who's either too selfish, not selfish enough, lacks the clutch gene, whatever. Despite, like, in all these retrospectives with West coming out today, I saw quotes from Oscar Robertson, Pat Riley, Bill Russell, even Red Effin Auerbach praising not just Jerry West's talent, but like his ability to make big shots and big plays in the biggest moments. And this is the same ecosystem. I've railed against this for years, that created a world where for a lot of people, Kobe had to win his 4th championship in order to win his first. Like that he had to truly validate himself by winning one without Shaq, which is just silly. And I recognize Kobe fed in this to some degree because he outwardly wanted to win without Shaq. He wanted to like stake that claim, but Kobe never felt the need to validate himself. I think that is safe to say. And we live in this world now where everything has to be debated. And in these debates, you have to entrench yourself into one side with the strongest, hottest take. And in order to defend your strongest, hottest take, you have to rip apart greatness on the other side. And it sucks a lot of the fun, at least to me, out of sports. Because like you are watching amazing things on a regular basis when you watch professional sports. Like
and West would remind you of that when talking about modern players, except ironically there's a great moment. Like you talk about the sort of the saltiness of Jerry West and very he was very praising of the modern player, but also very defensive of his era. With the whole JJ Redick, Bob Cousy, was it like plumbers and accountants flap? West, acknowledged Redick's ability to shoot the ball and then kind of ripped him to shreds while supporting his own generation. Like West wasn't one of these old heads who did that to modern players. And you see that guys who were maybe a little bit jealous that these guys won or they're making money. Like how much money would Jerry West? I mean, Jerry West became a very wealthy man anyway. It was okay. But, how much in salary would West have made?
I think it's safe to say, Brian, he'd have been a max player.
A max player. He would have.
I think Jerry West would have been a super max guy.
He would have gotten that coveted second max contract, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing he would have made enough all NBA teams to qualify.
Right. I mean, he is, after all, the logo.
Mm-hmm.
It also requires you in ways that are intellectually dishonest in a way that a person like Jerry West was really only about himself in his playing career to the negative. To reduce basketball to the ability of one guy to be the reason a team wins or loses. And, obviously star-driven game, we look back at that, what is 2014? I forget. When did Dallas win the first time? 2011. Yeah. 2011 when Dirk outplayed LeBron. LeBron had a legitimately bad series there.
Yeah.
But like that greatness never has any kind of off day. That winning and losing can be boiled down to the performance of one player, that it sets aside there's an intellectual dishonesty to when guys have bad games, glossing it over if their team happens to win. We just forget, and all of this stuff that, West to me symbolized the exact opposite of all those things, understanding how difficult it is to win, how much nuance there is in winning, how much luck and lack of luck there is in winning and losing, and how we villainize losing in ways that go beyond what losing is. You lose, it is a character deficiency often. It doesn't matter if the team that beats you is better. Having a tough game, missing shots is not a character deficiency, or certainly doesn't have to be. He is one of these guys that makes me think holistically about how we look at the game, because in a lot of ways of how he looked in himself.
Yeah. Again, like I was thinking about, all these tributes, rest in peace, Jerry West. Like, I really hope he can rest in peace. And like, I don't mean this flippantly. I mean it in terms of whatever spirituality you believe in after somebody passes away. I hope he can find that peace, because he spent his whole life lacking in a lot of ways peace. He had a brutal childhood, with a dirt poor, or certainly very poor upbringing, with
a significant amount of tragedy.
Yeah, he had a physically abusive father. It seemed like, from what I've read, and at the end of the show, I'll recommend a couple West books that I have read that are excellent. But seemed like a very mentally abusive mother. He lost his brother in the Korean War, and there was just a lot of lack of ease that seemed to follow Jerry West through his entire life. And you really do hope that, for whatever rest in peace means to people or means to those we are wishing to rest in peace, that he can find that, because he certainly seemed to have very little that he frankly deserved in his life.
A little more about Jerry West and a quick update on where some tangentially important things, I'll say, to the coaching search for the Lakers. We'll get into all of it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. The easiest, most exciting way to play DFS, just you against the numbers. Pick more than or less than on 2 or more player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball and hockey entries on PrizePicks. When the finals are over, hoops action does not end. Women's basketball is just getting started. Young stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, veterans like Asia Wilson, Breanna Stewart, all doing their thing, and you can win up to 100 times your money watching. PrizePicks now accepts Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account. Make those picks, submit the entry in less than 60 seconds. Go to prizepicks.com and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
So we'll get to West again in a second here, and even West even touches the coaching question, because Andy, the reason you've pointed this out a few times, that Pat Riley became the coach of the Lakers was in part because Jerry West said, "I'm not going to be his co-coach." Looking back at his time as a coach, which I can't say this definitively, but I feel relatively confident in saying was probably his least favorite moments in the NBA. The man hated coaching.
Yes, he did.
And so, he found executiving stressful and had some issues there too. But I always got the impression in reading about him, he really detested coaching and wanted no part of it. When Jerry Buss said, "You're going to be our co-coach with Pat Riley," which, by the way, co-coaching, stupid idea anyway.
Yes, it was. I mean, Jerry West, we talk about, his vision and incredible decision-making as an exec. One of those decisions was, this is a terrible idea. I'm not going to do that.
Not doing that.
You mentioned the stress that he just had as an exec. For people unaware, Jerry West often could not even handle watching these games. He would get in his car and just drive around listening to them on the radio because they stressed him out so much.
Yep. And so, but we'll get back to this in a second, but he's relevant even to these conversations. But from reporting on Wednesday, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have an open coaching spot, are apparently not just going to wait around for the Lakers to figure out what the heck they're doing. James Borrego, Micah Nori, and Kenny Atkinson reportedly moving on in the interview process for more interviews. That doesn't necessarily preclude others from getting interviewed in Cleveland, but two of those three at least, have been attached to the Lakers in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't seem like the Lakers have a ton of interest in Atkinson, but Borrego is the only guy to interview twice for this job, and Micah Nori is on that list as well. This is significant in two ways, Andy. I think there's the obvious: if the Cavs hire somebody the Lakers wanted to hire, they can no longer hire that person. But it also points out, they need to get this going, because it's not just the head coach they need to hire. The head coach needs to hire a staff. And the longer this goes, the more of those guys are going to be locked into next year. They go sign somewhere else. They're not willing to wait around. James Borrego or whoever it might be offers them a position in Cleveland that they don't want to pass up. The clock is ticking, not just on the head coach, but on the infrastructure around him.
I've been saying many, many times, if you're if you're going to hire JJ Redick, you need to sit down with the league, sit down with ESPN, sit down with everyone and say, look, this is the guy we need to hire as our coach. Let's figure out the parameters. Let's figure out the rules. One of your crown jewel franchises, needs to find a flipping coach. Can we all be adults about this? Or you need to move on from JJ Redick. You don't have time to be messing around. You just don't.
I feel like these West remembrances, like there was a lot of focus, maybe to just sort of bring it back to the Lakers on like what the Lakers would do, how they would respond, what kind of statement they would put out and all that kind of stuff. You talked about that relationship. Jeannie mentioned said something on Instagram. They released like a photo of West and I think a short statement, I think is fair to say.
Yeah.
I wonder what they'll do during the year. The Lakers have always, and again, the man has his numbers in the rafters. He's got a statue. The Lakers have always been really good at this sort of thing, but this is a difficult one, I think, in some ways, just because, again, the relationship was fractured. And I don't think like Jerry West would necessarily want some sort of thing that would seem to imply that, all was forgiven, all was great. I mean, it may just be the Lakers have to kind of leave it as it is.
It's very clear if you read a lot about Jerry West, or in particular the book West by West, My Charmed Life, which was written by Jerry West and Jonathan Coleman. I also recommend Jerry West, The Life and Legend of a Basketball Icon by Roland Lazenby. That moment during in the 2000 season where Phil Jackson kicked Jerry West out of the locker room, very in Jerry West's mind, but I think also by multiple accounts, very abruptly and not befitting of somebody of Jerry West's stature and what he has meant to the organization. By the way, this was during Phil's first season with the Lakers. Mm-hmm. That was the beginning of not just the end, but a very rapid decline. Like Jerry West was not with the organization much longer after that. And then there were just different things that happened over the years. According to Jerry West, Dr. Buss had promised him season tickets for life. They were taken from him without really much explanation. It was via text. I think he felt like the Buss children, Jeannie, but I would say also, if I had to guess, Jim, never really accorded him the type of respect and, let's say, olive branches, maybe for lack of a better way of putting it, like looking to mend fences if possible. But I mean, you don't have to go back far to find quotes from Jerry West that makes it very clear he was angry with the Lakers. He was, might even say, resentful towards the Lakers, and that this was something that in his mind was not fixable. And you never know what maybe could have happened with more time or anything like that. But I said at the start, it's sad to see that relationship never get fixed. I was thinking a little bit about how the relationship between Kobe and his parents, by multiple accounts, at least I've seen from people who knew Kobe better than us, that was never really fixed.
Never really got fixed
before Kobe's death. And, you don't know when you're going to run out of those opportunities. And like, it is something that's sort of hanging over how the Lakers treat this moving forward. And I think there is an element of, no matter what Jeannie says, it probably won't be considered good enough to a lot of people.
I mean, there's certain things in life are not repairable.
Yeah.
It is in the concentric circles of things you hope that, were good for Jerry West before he passed. You hope that, his any, and I don't know. I'm just like relationships with family, with close friends, with all these things. You hope those were good. with people with whom he deeply respected, people around the game or outside the game, that those things were good. And you just go out a few circles, and then you get to something like the Lakers, where it certainly would be nice, but is less important than family. But to the rest of us, that's the circle that we see. That's the circle that is meaningful to Lakers fans, is that relationship and the history of Jerry West and the Lakers. I mean, that it's not maybe the most important thing for Jerry West, but it's kind of the most important thing for us, because when you are West, Kobe, a celebrity of any kind, LeBron, Anthony Davis, you don't belong entirely to yourself anymore. Somebody I think like Jerry West recognized that and understood them. The best of these guys understand that your life has a meaning in other ways. But it's just, it's a complicated, I don't know, fitting is probably the wrong word, just because it sounds more upbeat than I mean it, or optimistic, but it is a kind of fitting reality for a complex life.
Yeah. I would say, first of all, I mean, we, spoke with Ryan West a few times when he was with the Lakers, Jerry West's son. Condolences to Ryan, to the entire West family, his friends. I would think, though, and I truly mean this, in Jerry West's mind, if he does have to die, and I think, and we know everybody does, he would be fine with it happening on a day where it will upstage the Boston Celtics in the finals. I honestly think that if he had to choose a day to die, a day where the focus is off that team potentially on the cusp of winning Banner 18, he's just fine with that.
At the very least, again, going back to how Lakers fans look at things, I think Lakers fans certainly kind of appreciate it.
Yeah.
It is, we both had, the opportunity to speak to Jerry West a couple times on different occasions at different events and things like that for work and whatever. And I'll be honest with you, I don't even remember why I was sent to talk to him. I don't remember the questions I asked him. I don't remember what his responses were. I'm sure they were not any kind of question he's never heard 1,000 times before, but I deeply value the chance to say, I had a chance to sit down and do, a couple one-on-one interviews with that guy. And condolences to his family, to the NBA family, to Lakers fans who are all mourning his passing. Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show. Leave us questions, leave us comments about Jerry West. If you have experiences with him, watching him, ever meeting him, whatever it might be, do let us know. We will see everyone tomorrow.